Whoa man, did you hear? Pokken's the new Smash!
Oh yeah, dude, it's like Smash Wii U if it were competitive. I'm going to stop these two hypothetical dudes right now and make one thing explicitly clear. Pokken Tournament is only similar to Smash in the way that it's a fighting game and is published by Nintendo. Don't you love it when two somewhat similar things emerge and people instantly jump on the bandwagon and start comparing them? Anyways, Pokken Tournament is a game that I thought would never exist. It was developed by Bandai Namco, originally only for Japan arcades, but that facade didn't last too long as it was shortly confirmed for a worldwide release on the Wii U. Apparently, the arcade machines failed to make a substantial profit in Japan, but hopefully Pokken Tournament on Wii U will find more success. Why? Because I love Pokken Tournament. Before I go more in depth, I want to just praise how amazing and fun Pokken is. I haven't had this much fun with a fighting game since Super Smash Bros. Melee. Not even Smash 4, which I do enjoy, was this exhilarating. So why is that? And just how is Pokken from a casual and competitive standpoint? Well, there's certainly a lot to talk about here, but let's start out with how Pokken actually plays. Essentially, Pokken combines gameplay elements from Tekken and Pokemon into one cohesive fighting game experience, and it's actually surprisingly complex. The fighting itself is split into a duel phase and a field phase. In the field phase, you can move around like you would in any 3D space and try to attack your opponent in any way you can. If you pull off a powerful attack, then the fighting transitions to the duel phase and vice versa for that matter. The duel phase changes Pokken into more of a 2.5D fighting game where your movement and moves also change. This blend of duel and field phases may seem a bit daunting at first, but you get used to it fairly quickly. Attacks are split into three categories: normal, counters, and grabs. Think of these three methods of attacks like a game of rock, paper, and scissors. Counters trump normal attacks trump grabs, and grabs trump counters. If both players do the same move at the same time, the player who charges their attack the longest will win. And if both combatants press the same button at the same time, their attacks will simply cancel. When you use a normal attack, your fighter will have no coloration, but when you try to do a counter or grab, you will glow blue or green respectively. This allows players to visualize what their opponent's next move might be so they can hopefully counter it. This adds a lot of depth to the combat system since players can't just button mash to win against a skilled opponent. If you keep trying to counter and counter, then the opponent can and will adapt by grabbing you more and more. Or if you shield a lot, your opponent can quickly pick up on your playstyle and grab you out of the shield. What's even more interesting is that every character has a different moveset, so you have to learn what each Pokemon's strengths and weaknesses are to do well. For example, I've come to mainly play as Gardevoir, and her main strategy of attack is special projectile damage. Even though she is decent up close, she racks up the most damage from far away with Psychics and Psybeams. To do this, you mainly rely on pressing A and countering if your opponent tries to attack you from the air. In terms of these button presses, you mainly do counters by pressing X and A, grabs with Y and B, heavy attacks with X, light attacks with Y, and specials with A. If you use the D-pad in combination with those buttons, you'll change what attack you pull off, and this is incredibly important. Knowing your character's moveset is essential to getting good at Pokken. Gengar is a good example of this because his neutral A is a grab, and his normal grab drains health. If you want to specialize as Gengar, you'll have to use the D-pad in tandem with A. Machamp, on the other hand, is a fighter that is more beneficial up close and personal. He doesn't have projectiles, so he has to count on aerials, grabs, and the occasional counterattacks to win a fight. So you'll be pressing X and Y a lot with Machamp. Despite his shortcomings, he is a powerhouse because his damage output is exceptionally high. This is one of the many reasons why I love Pokken. There is an enormous amount of variety between characters in terms of their movesets and how they play. Not to mention, there are numerous ways you could utilize each character, which prevents any two matches from being the same. I know a lot of people have complained about the size of the character roster being an issue, but it's not. Smaller rosters in a fighting game like Pokken are actually good for its competitive aspect. With less characters, there are less fighters you need to learn to counter and less to pick from, so you can focus on one character and main them. Since movesets are quite complex for every character, having more than what is already there would just make things more confusing. When I first started to play Pokken Online, I fought a Pikachu Libre, and at one point I remember saying to myself, well, I didn't know that character could do that. Sure, some characters are harder to learn than others, but that's not a detriment to Pokken. There's a high skill ceiling for a lot of these characters like Chandelure or even Gengar, so you have to work at them if you truly want to main them. Some characters are simply easier to pick up and play and do well with, like Blaziken and Garchomp, who are faster and more powerful. However, this character roster may be small, but I doubt it will stay this size in the future. There is technically DLC out in the form of Shadow Mewtwo, and Pokken is just ripe for even more. I mean, come on, this is one of the biggest Nintendo games of Q1. Of course they're going to add some new fighters into the mix, and they most likely will not be free. That being said, Nintendo puts out quality DLC that doesn't feel like they're holding back content about 75% of the time, so I'm excited to play as more Pokemon and Pokken in the future. If I were to guess, Nintendo will most likely add more support Pokemon into the mix as well. Support Pokemon can be used to counter your opponent's moves or in some other beneficial way in battle, whether that be to stun or debuff your opponent. While I'm sure some would view these as cheap or broken, they create opportunities for players to mix up a match. Now that you understand the fundamentals of Pokken, why don't we move on to its more competitive aspects? I'm clearly no expert in this field of competitive gameplay, so I've asked my friend Dakoti to help me out with this section. Anyways, after playing Pokken for roughly over 50 hours, I personally think it has a developed competitive edge to it. For one thing, there's a high enough skill ceiling for people to actually be, well, skilled. What I mean by this is that there are advanced tech and combos you can learn to separate yourself from the pack. If you're knocked back into the air, for example, you can press B to recover, then transition into an attack if you want. This is similar to teching an SSB or Street Fighter. There are also many combos every character can pull off that are done with various button combinations, which only serve to add a layer of depth to the fighting. And these combos are what I believe are true combos, since you can't get out of them. Plus, if you get stuck in one of these combos, it's almost always your fault and not the game's. Pokken is pretty fair with making every fight seem fair and balanced. When you lose, you can't really blame the game, you can only blame yourself for being bad. Every mistake you make can easily be capitalized on and punished, so you need to know when to grab, counter, and attack at all times. However, a minor complaint that I have towards the game is that while it's easy to punish your opponent for mistakes, the punish game is a bit weak in certain aspects. The neutral game, the time in which players are not attacking one another, revolves around entering duel phase, in which you are then moved from a 3D state to a 2.5D state. Winning the neutral game in fighting games usually results in putting your opponent in a compromising situation, and punishing your opponent for a mistake usually results in a significant advantage. For example, grabbing is a universal option for all characters in Pokken, and yet if you were able to win the neutral game by grabbing your opponent for using a laggy move like the counter, you have no follow-ups beyond the animation that occurs. Your opponent hits the ground and you can't follow up with your own combo. Similarly, all synergy bursts, the super moves, have an invincible startup, meaning that if your opponent triggers one while you're attacking them, they go unpunished for a move that should normally only work when comboed into. In short, these are situations in which you should be able to gain an advantage over your opponent, but instead, the game is a little too forgiving at times. Alright, I think that just about covers it for the basics of Pokken as a fighting game and a competitive game. So, how about that single-player content? Well, it's actually great. Single-player stuff is split into the Farm League, training, and single battles. Training is kinda self-explanatory. You go to this zone to train and learn how to play Pokken, and although you can jump into a battle without this training and learn as you play, I found it to be helpful. I would have never known about the triangle of attacks if I didn't play around in training first, and I probably wouldn't have been able to teach my friends or any of you about the game either. I'd say that if you get Pokken, play through the tutorials first. Fighting in Pokken can be complicated for people new to the fighting game genre, so these tutorials might just be what they needed. I mean, they don't take that long, only roughly 20 minutes if you do them all. Admittedly, they did get on my nerves after the first 15 minutes, but that was only because of one glaring issue. The English voice actress. My god, the voice acting in Pokken is so awful, it's hilarious. I haven't laughed this hard, ironically, since I watched Caillou. I know voice acting is not the main focus of this fighting game, but let me just have my moment for a second. Look, I know I'm as monotone as they come, but every voice sounds so unenthusiastic and like they're reading off of a script written in scribbles. Sometimes it seems like the voice actors and actresses don't even know what's going on or what they're saying. The main female that cheers you on and gives you advice during gameplay is robotic and annoying, but luckily you can switch her voice to Japanese or entirely off, which makes the game so much better. Here, I think it's better if I show you what I'm talking about rather than tell you.
If you can defeat me, I'll let you move up into C rank. Show me what you can do.
The black Pokemon has been seen again.
You think that's the one that was with the hooded girl?
That's the one, yeah. They even say the girl doesn't wear a battle AR. How do you think they achieve synergy? Anyway, a few trainers have already gotten banged up pretty badly. Be careful.
Hey, nice to meet you. I'm Nia. I'm one of the battle trainers here in Ferrum.
Are you both okay? I've never seen a Pokemon suddenly appear and attack like that. Just glad things didn't turn nasty. That was a little unexpected, but congrats on going up to C rank. I can't wait to see how far you can go.
See, the voice performances are so badly phoned in, they're great. Anyhow, the single battles are straightforward, simple, and somewhat pointless. You just face off against CPUs so you can essentially sandbag them. They put up almost no fight and serve the same purpose as training dummies. Why this mode was implemented when you have the Farm League in training, I don't understand. The Farm League in question is easily the most developed and interesting single-player mode in Pokken. Think of the Farm League like the story to any Pokemon game. You're a random trainer who is trying to become the very best like no one but the champion ever was. Along the way, you encounter a great evil Pokemon and its master being Shadow Mewtwo and a hooded chick. And no angry commenters, this is not a spoiler. Shadow Mewtwo's role in this game has been advertised by Nintendo, is played up in the game's intro, and shows up about an hour into the Farm League. Yeah, just randomly after a league match, Shadow Mewtwo shows up and you have to take him down. He's pretty easy in the beginning, but as you might have guessed, gets harder as you fight him more and more. I'm not going to say who the final boss is in Pokken, but you probably could have guessed. Even though the voice acting and writing is extremely corny and lackluster, the story is passable and a nice distraction from the main focus of the game, the multiplayer. Multiplayer is divided into online and local, which are both practically the same. Local battles are easily the most competent and fast-paced. One player uses a Wiimote, Pro Controller, Classic Controller, or the special Pokken Controller, and the other uses the gamepad. There's no split screen in Pokken. One player looks on the TV and the other on the gamepad, which is probably the best thing the developers could have done to make multiplayer in Pokken as seamless as possible. There's no way field and duel phases could have worked if local battles battles were displayed any other way. In local battles, there's also never any slowdown and the game still looks great, making this the ideal way to play Pokken. I've had a couple people over to play the game and we found ourselves addicted to it. We couldn't stop playing, and every time new people were able to jump in and eventually put up a tough challenge for me. Online play is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's quite competent with friend matches, though they do require a versus code, which is stupid, and ranked battles. Friend battles are fun enough, and especially fun when you're fighting someone you know. That being said, when the game does come out, I would love to battle every one of you. When I do, I'll most likely tweet about it, so you know, smash that like button and be sure to donate to my Patreon! Nevertheless, the online play is okay when it doesn't lag. Ranked battles are equally as okay, but probably will be better when more people get the game. Matchmaking, from my experience, is non-existent, as the game pairs you up randomly with another player after 10 seconds, which is problematic. Especially for the time when I'm reviewing the game, all I was playing were the same people over and over. I mean, that's not really a big deal since I did have fun battling the 2 people I did. I imagine when the game does release worldwide, the matchmaking will be more random and hopefully the online won't be laggy or anything. As for the presentation, it's stellar. All the environments are vibrant and diverse. Despite some arenas being reused and being slightly reworked, I still love each and every stage. However, while the appearance of every stage is diverse and different, their designs are certainly not. Each stage is practically the same on a technical level, though I do find myself loving the looks of the training dojo in Diggersby City. Plus, the character models are well detailed and aren't as jagged as I assume they would be from the trailers. In-game, on my TV, with the screen moving as fast as it does, the models look great. I think visually, Garchomp, Gengar, and Gardevoir look the best, with Pikachu Libre coming in at a close second. The soundtrack is, unlike the visuals, great, but forgettable. It's good music for getting you excited, but it's not something I would listen to out of the game. All in all, Pokken Tournament is a fantastic title. The presentation is phenomenal, the gameplay is top-notch, and there is a lot of content here. From a competitive standpoint, there's a lot of potential to be good, improve, and be the best. And if you're just playing for fun, you'll most likely have that well-deserved fun. After all, I've played Pokken for over 50 hours and I'm still not bored. It's entertaining, fast-paced, and addicting. This is one of the first games of 2016 that I've played that I want to continue to play after I review it. Not only that, but this is one of the only times as a reviewer I've found something totally new from what I play that is really, really good. If you enjoy fighting games, want something on the Wii U to sink a lot of time in, or want a game that a friend or a special someone and yourself can be entertained by, Pokken is for you. It's well worth that $60 price tag, and thus you should not wait for a price drop or sale. But if you disagree or agree with me, let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching and take care, have a wonderful day, and goodbye.